Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the 7 Minute Takeover, where we chat all things acquisitions. We're your hosts. I'm Liz Pray.
I'm Eamon Gamble.
Today, we're chatting about overcoming an objection.
That's right. The topic we're going to discuss is around seller notes or vendor take-back notes. They have a few different names. In a previous episode, we talked about a postponement period on the principal.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're looking at all the other terms that may be contentious when you're negotiating a seller note once you're under offer.
One of those big ones being collateral. What collateral can a seller ask for from a buyer to secure this alternative type of loan?
Yeah, and the other big thing that'll come up is probably the interest rate that you're going to have to pay on that seller note as well. So we'll maybe start with that topic.
Okay, so Eamon, typically what we're seeing is that because there's a postponement period, that the purchaser will be asked to pay interest. How are banks viewing that interest payment? Are they allowing it? Are they not allowing it? So that the seller can get some compensation throughout the term.
Yeah, I think there's two big aspects to this. The first is that by the risk that this note presents to the seller, it should be considered kind of mezzanine debt or subordinated lending. And so the interest rates that we typically see are a bit lower than you might expect a private mezzanine lender to offer in this type of situation.
Yeah, private lenders tend to be, 15-20%?
Yeah, kind of that 12 to 20% anywhere.
Quite high.
What we typically see in these types of deals is more along the lines of 5 to 8%. So a little bit below what you might consider market for the risk that they're taking. Now, the goal and the reason that sellers are often okay with this is that the goal of the seller note is really to maximize the amount of senior debt that's available in the transaction to the buyer, because, that's cash on close for the seller. It's going to give them access to a higher valuation by maximizing that senior debt. And so a lot of these terms have been adjusted a little bit to achieve that goal. So the interest rate being one of them. If a senior lender knows that a seller just needs to be paid 5% on their seller note, they're not really going to bat an eyelash. They're going to allow those interest payments to be made during the course of the loan. If you start talking about a 15% interest rate on that, or you bring in an actual mezzanine lender, the bank's going to want full postponement on any of those payments.
Right, because it's going to impact cash flow.
It's going to impact cash flow. It's more likely to trigger a covenant breach. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to want to test those covenants before allowing a bigger payment like that to be made.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, let's chat about collateral. What can a seller request from a buyer as far as collateral? Obviously, they've got some funds that are at risk here, and they want that additional comfort that they're going to get paid out, or they're going to have some leverage to pull back on something should something go wrong. So where do they fall in the order of operations here, and what kind of control do they have?
Sure. I think the short answer is that they'll often take whatever they can get. Most sellers understand that they're going to be subordinated to a senior lender. So no matter what collateral they take, mm-hmm. it's probably second behind the senior lender. So the most common thing that we see is just the seller taking a second position charge on a company. I'm going to use that term. In Canada, it's referred to as a general security agreement, or a GSA. In the U.S., it's a UCC filing. But effectively, it's something that says, if you default on your loan to me, I own everything in the company. Sounds great, right? Seller might get their company back.
I don't know if the seller's going to want the company back.
They might not. If they're retiring, they probably don't want the company back. But the pro is that they've maybe got a path to taking that company back over if the buyer defaults on the seller notes. However, the problem is that by the time the senior lender recoups all the funds that they are owed, there's typically not much left in the company. There's a high degree of correlation between the value of a company and the value of the collateral within the company. And so, the benefit to that one for a seller is that, the senior loan will be repaid in about 5 years before theirs starts being repaid. So if the company goes belly up after about 5 years, they may end up being first in line to actually recover assets in that situation. So it's worth putting the charge in the first place. That's the most common. Alternatives include,
What are some other things?
if there's real estate in the deal, everyone likes real estate. Everyone likes hard assets. Yeah. And so a second position charge or second position mortgage on a piece of real estate could be valuable.
Do they ever go for personal real estate? Can they? How does that?
Again, they can kind of ask for whatever they want. They're a private lender to this company, the same as any other private lender would be.
So it is a negotiation what collateral a purchaser puts up.
It absolutely is, and we have seen personal guarantees coming to a discussion. This may be worthwhile for a seller if, say, the buyer has significant personal assets or income outside of the business that's being acquired. That may be the most valuable thing that they have access to. Again, a senior lender is probably going to take a personal guarantee already. But again, if there's assets to cover both, you'd want to have that personal guarantee as a seller.
And do you see this? Is it common to see the personal guarantee and this full depth of collateral, or what's most common? This is the swath of options there are, but what's most common?
Yeah, I'd say we've seen the personal guarantee in a handful of situations. I would say it's not in the majority of deals. The real estate charge is most common when there is real estate involved in the deal. Most commonly, it's a second position charge against the company itself. But again, it's going to be subject to a negotiation, and in return for maybe a lower interest rate, they may want two pieces of collateral to help close the deal. So any combination is possible.
And it depends, and it's always a negotiation. So, any last remarks on overcoming this objection, even?
Uh, Not really. I think you're going to have to be flexible with what the seller values. Ultimately, they are a key lender and a key financing partner, and so have to be treated with the seriousness as such.
So be prepared for this extra level of negotiation when there's seller note, seller financing involved. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, please be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media, and check out our website at villagewellth.com.